Welcome back to my channel. I'm Will Photo. I'm One Loud Ferrari Cleveland's right chairs, right seatbelts favorite photographer. So if you didn't know that, hit the subscribe button. Well, thank you so much for clicking on another Will Photo video. Before we get started, we got to give a shout out to the subscriber of the video. And today it is Chris. Thank you so much for turning on post notifications. If you want a shout out in the next video, turn on post notifications and comment down below that you did so, and you will receive a shout out in my next video. I know you guys are thinking about, I know someone here is like, ooh, I'm going to figure out who One Loud Ferrari Cleveland is. Well, actually, I've made this video and he doesn't know that I'm making this video, but I'm going to expose him. Every single person in Cleveland is like, who is he? Well, I'm here to tell you his name. I'm going to tell you his address. The man who is behind One Loud Ferrari, his name is and that's his address too. So you guys, now you know. And now you can stop asking. But without further ado, here is the interview I did with One Loud Ferrari Cleveland. I hope you enjoy it.
But I will say, I love to get my belongings out and play with them. So it's my one big red belonging. How's it going, guys? This is One Loud Ferrari Cleveland, and this is my 430 Challenge build.
Tell us a little bit about your car.
So this is a 2007 Ferrari F430. I was really drawn to this car because it was a low mileage car. It's got 14,000 miles on it. It's only had 2 owners for the vehicle, and it was in mint condition, and it was the perfect price and the right time to buy this car.
So why do you hide your face?
So I hide my face because, honestly, in my opinion, number one, I don't really want the attention of having the car, and number two, it's not about me, it's about the car. I think there are 2 reasons people buy Ferraris, and one reason is to say that they have a Ferrari, and the other reason is they buy a Ferrari because it's a Ferrari. And I bought the Ferrari because it's a Ferrari. Like I said, I've wanted one since I was a child, and I also think it's fun to kind of hide my identity and stuff like that. And I watch YouTube videos and stuff, and sometimes I see the guys on there and they're talking and they get really annoying, and I just want to know more about their cars and stuff like that. So it kind of brought the idea to me that I could basically be like Bruce Wayne and just totally hide my existence, because people really at the end of the day don't give a shit.
Where did you draw your inspiration from for this build?
So the inspiration for this build basically came from my childhood. Growing up, my dad used to take me to the Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio, and I mean, still to this day, I can remember walking through the pits and talking to the drivers, and the absolute rawness of the race cars was always something that just as a child just brightened me up. I mean, it was something that I was very passionate about from an early age, and I wanted to build a race car at the end of the day, but I wanted to build a race car that I could take on the street. I wanted to build something that was so raw that people that saw it on the street would be in somewhat disbelief that it was even legal.
So why a Ferrari?
Why a Ferrari? Growing up, this is kind of a funny story. My dad, who's a very successful businessman, who is also very cheap, also has a love for cars, and he actually built a Fiero kit car that was a Ferrari Testarossa kit car. And growing up, I mean, he built it. I remember him totally building it when I was about 5, and I didn't know the difference of what a kit car was and what that even meant. I just knew it was a Ferrari. So I remember running around telling everybody my dad had a Ferrari. So from a very early age, Ferraris just stood out to me, and they were like the epitome of cars. And the sound and the heritage and the race heritage behind them. And I also like Enzo Ferrari. I admire him and his work ethic and what he stood for, and he was self-made and all those things. And that's really what drew me to Ferrari, was just the pure rawness and the sound and the color and the look. Is what really made me just want a Ferrari. I've wanted a Ferrari since I can remember.
Why modify a 430? Why not just get a 458?
So the 458s, I just feel like they're not a driver's car. I think they're beautiful cars. I think they sound great. But when I drove one, and I drove one for an entire day, I rented one, and I just wasn't, I felt like it was over-engineered. I felt like it was too easy to drive, where like my grandma could jump in it and basically be fast in it, where the 430 was still very analog. It still had that classic Ferrari feel to it, where you had to know what you were doing, and you could easily screw up if you didn't know how to drive the car, and I wanted a car that scared the shit out of me periodically.
So what made you choose a 430?
The 430, I felt like from doing a lot of research and stuff like that, ironically, when I grew up, a 360 was my dream car when I was younger. But then as I got a little bit older and understood the cars a little bit more and stuff like that, I felt like the 430 was a really good balance between a 458 and a 360. They were actually a fast car, and they were raw, and they were a driver's car, and they were still beautiful at the same time. And it was something that I felt that it had a really good platform to build basically a street legal race car that was still reliable.
Walk us through it. What's been done to the car so far?
So far this winter, since we've started on this build, we've got H&R lowering springs, 3-piece LD97 wheels. We have a fully carbon fiber GT3 hood from the Netherlands. We have a GT2 fully carbon fiber from bumper from a race team in Miami called ANSA Motorsports. We have 2 Sparco race seats. We have special custom mounted brackets that also mount to a custom roll cage and harness bar. We have a custom carbon fiber steering wheel that's in style of a La Ferrari. We have a chassis mounted wing. We have a full straight piped Raceline Edition exhaust from Fab Speed Motorsports. We've also have a Stage 1 tune by Expertune, and then we also have a custom fabricated rear diffuser that has an exhaust exit through it. And then lastly, we have carbon fiber intake covers as well.
What's been the most difficult part about this entire build?
Being patient. That's been probably the most difficult part from my perspective. Granted, I didn't put the car together, so I can't speak too much to how difficult it's been, but I know that making custom parts and making race car parts fit on an OEM car is not easy at all. So I would say, and then in conjunction with that, the coronavirus outbreak halfway through the build didn't help things either. So that's kind of really where I think the most difficult things have come from my perspective.
Who's behind the scenes making the vision come to life?
I've had the car here at Revolution Performance in Canton, Ohio for the last couple months. They basically started the build. We've done everything here from fabricating from scratch a roll bar or harness bar, basically. It's kind of a functional harness bar that kind of has the functionality of a harness bar but the look of a roll cage. Then we also have done a fully custom rear diffuser that has an exhaust exit through it. They helped get the seats, the Sparco seats set in properly with custom mounted brackets because the seat sat too high. I'm kind of a taller guy. I mean, they made sure the steering wheel fit in. I mean, they installed everything that I brought to them to the car, which was from the fully straight piped Fab Speed exhaust from the headers all the way back. And now we're customizing that exhaust to make sure it goes through the diffuser properly. So with everything that they've done, we've basically brought the car together.
Anything planned for the future?
So hopefully what I would really love to do is bring the car back here to Revolution next winter and twin turbo the car, and then also do a manual conversion. Right now the car's got an F1 transmission in it, and I really think just to take it over the edge a little bit and make it as raw as we can possibly make this car is switch it over into manual and a twin turbo car.
What does it feel to finally have your childhood dream come to life?
It is like no other feeling in the world. Having something come true that, number one, you didn't think was possible, and then number two, something that you've wanted since you were probably 4 or 5 years old. The best way to describe it would be like somebody set a nuclear bomb off in your chest of excitement, realistically. It is unlike any other feeling I've ever felt in my life, and I really genuinely, it makes me want this feeling for other people, because to have something come together that you really didn't think you were capable of doing, and then watching a dream assemble before your eyes is like nothing else you'll ever experience in your entire life.
What's your favorite part about the build?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think it's the exhaust, maybe. I mean, it's a really, really close tie. I mean, the GT3 and GT2 parts that make it look like a challenge car is awesome, but the sound, I mean, you have to hear the car in person. Every person that I've had hear this car or start this car for, it's like nothing they've ever heard. And even I had seen videos of what this exhaust sounded like on JR Garage, and it's still literally in person. I mean, it is the craziest, rawest sounding car. Just the overall look, I think the whole package, it's like, I don't know, which kid do you love more? It's like every part of it I love. I love the roll cage, I love the steering wheel, I love the seats, I love the bodywork, I love the spoiler, I love everything about it. It is literally everything I would have done to a car. I wanted to go all out on this car, full send, and just build it the way I would want to build it. Money not a question, just do what I wanted to do and live my life the way I wanted to live it.
What do you plan on doing with this car?
Whew. So I think, I've basically built this car out to how I would have dreamed it to be, but now kind of looking more into it and stuff, I really want to make this one of the craziest cars in Ohio, quite frankly. I think that's the objective here. I mean, it's definitely, I'm not building it for other people, but I would love to just kind of know that I have one of the rawest Ferraris on the road, and at least in Ohio. So the next thing that we're talking about here at Revolution is twin turboing the car and then potentially doing a manual conversion.
How do you feel about giving out rides?
So I actually plan on giving rides. That's one of the things about this is honestly, I'm just as much of a fanboy as anybody else about these cars. It still doesn't even feel like my car. What I'd like to do is when I go to different shows and stuff, potentially having people like vote in on who wants a ride in the car and then giving joy rides in the car so they can experience what it's like to ride in a car this raw. Because I know that I would have done anything when I was younger or even at this age. If I didn't have this car, I would do anything to at least just ride in the car. So I plan on periodically giving rides to people that really want to ride and get to experience an experience that they normally wouldn't be able to do.
Hey, can I get a ride?
No.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think it is that law enforcement's going to love this car just as much as you do?
I feel like it's a 1 or a 2 that they'll love it as much as I do. I'm going to probably name this thing, other than One Loud Ferrari, it's probably just going to be called Ticket Queen. I mean, it's very likely that I'll probably end up getting pulled over almost every time I have this out, and not for speeding, because of how loud and how obnoxious and raw this car is. If you see the car in person, like, you'll understand, especially if you hear it, it's a full race car on the road.
What do you think is going to be going through people's heads when they see this car for the first time?
I think they're going to shit their pants. I think, honestly, I think the Ferrari purists, surprisingly, when I first went to build this car, I mean, quite frankly, I didn't give a shit what people thought, but out of curiosity, I've had a lot of the purists say they love the car, and I think it's because it's race-inspired. It's not gaudy or anything like that. It's straight race car. I think they're either going to love it or hate it, and quite frankly, I don't really give a shit, because I built this car the way that I would want it built, and I did everything to this car that I wanted done to this car. So I didn't build it for other people, I built it for me. And I bought a Ferrari, not to say I have a Ferrari, but because I wanted a Ferrari.
What exactly makes a challenge car a challenge car?
So the term challenge car basically is race car. It's a series. It's a challenge series that these cars race in. It's like a GT Cup series, basically, where it's production cars that are modified into race cars, where they have to be a production car in order to run in this series, and they call that series challenge cars.
So where can people generally expect to spot this car?
So I'm going to do my best to take the car to as many car shows in Northeast Ohio and potentially Columbus as well. Definitely going to be at Stan Hewitt. I'm really close with the Cars and Coffee guys, so I'll be at a lot of those. I'm also doing the 2020 photography rally, which I'll be in that as well. But honestly, I try to plan on having the car around as much to let people appreciate it and get to experience what I get to experience as much as possible.
So are you going to be dailying this?
So dailying this car would be completely out of the question. I mean, once you see the car and you hear the car in person, you'll realize that there's no way that I would be able to daily this car without being sent to prison. But I do plan on getting the car out. I bought it because it's a driver's car, and I'm gonna try to get it out as much as I possibly can, honestly, without getting in too much trouble.
Now that the car's nearing completion, what's the one thing you look forward to the most?
There's the one thing that I'm really looking forward to that I keep envisioning and thinking about over and over again is taking my dad for the first time in the car. It's going to be a really, really big moment for me because I remember being a little kid thinking about how cool it would be to be able to take my dad in my Ferrari. So that's the one thing that I just keep replaying over in my head that I cannot wait to do is take him in the car and see the smile on his face and him laugh and stuff and get a kick out of it and get to experience that with my dad.
In your opinion, what makes a Ferrari a Ferrari?
So I think that what Enzo Ferrari was able to accomplish is quite frankly almost a miracle. I think that as a company, as an employment brand, Ferrari has done something that nobody else has done, and that's the fact that anybody can see the prancing horse and they recognize it. Whether they're a car fan or not, you can go anywhere in the globe, walk up to anybody in the street and ask them what kind of car this is, and if they see the Ferrari emblem on it, 9 out of 10 times they're going to know it's a Ferrari, and there is no other automotive manufacturer that can do that.
Do you feel like Enzo Ferrari would have an appreciation for your Ferrari?
So the one speech that I heard from Enzo Ferrari that always really stood out to me was that we don't sell a car, we sell a dream. And if that's truly the case, I think Enzo Ferrari would be very happy about my build because it is exactly what my dream is. I know that he didn't like modifying Ferraris and stuff like that, but I feel like this is a different version of modifying a car. Instead of making it really gaudy and doing a bunch of, flamboyant stuff to the car, I've basically made it a race car. And I know that Enzo basically dumped every cent that he had into their race team. So I feel like Enzo would really like my car.
One of your childhood dreams was to own a Ferrari, and now that you have one, do you have a message for America's youth, maybe that's chasing their dreams?
Yes. So my message is a couple statements because I think it's a formula that goes into it. And number one is work your ass off harder than you've ever thought you could. And when it gets hard, keep going and work even harder. Work smarter and harder at the end of the day. For a guy like me, I never finished college. I kind of fell into my job realistically and just ended up being really good at it and just really worked my ass off at the end of the day. And I know that this car behind me is a representation of a humongous chip on my shoulder that I would never be better than some of the other people that are in my life. And I can tell you now that if I can do this and if I can accomplish this, then anyone can accomplish whatever they want at the end of the day. Just never let the self-doubt or anyone else doubt you.
Are you Batman?
My name is Bruce Wayne.
Right off the list.
Little photo for knocking it out of the park.
Alright, well, if you watched that whole video, I enjoyed filming that video and it was really fun to do. I don't really have much more to say. Friday, I'm planning on a really cool video, so stay tuned for that. This week has been kind of chaotic. I tried 2 times to film a awesome YouTube video for you guys, Saturday and Sunday, and both times it didn't work out because I didn't have a mic for my camera. It was just too windy and it just didn't work out. So I have that idea. I've locked it in my head and it's back there, but I need some more equipment to be able to do that video. I know that this week's video wasn't a Will Photo video, but it is a piece of my work that I wanted to get out there and share. Like always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and comment your favorite part about the interview. If you're not already subscribed, I would greatly appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much to every single person watching these videos. Keep shooting, keep spreading love and positivity. I will see you Friday.